Everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So we're going to get started in just a second. Can you guys let us know in the comments and the chat if you can hear me okay and see me okay? And yes, so one of the questions we're getting is, will a recording be available? Yes, it will. And awesome. Seems like you guys can hear me and see me okay. And then if you see that button, the chat at the bottom is the one that we're going to be using. I see some of you are already using it. We have Kelly, Juan, and Janice in the chat, and they're going to be answering questions as we go along. This is going to be a very brief overview of Google Analytics at the beginning, but the main focus of this webinar will be on how to integrate in Bucket. But for those of you who are new to Google Analytics, we'll talk a little bit about that right now for a few minutes. So we'll just cover that for a few minutes, touch on it just in case some of you don't know about Google Analytics and are kind of wondering what you'd use it for. And then we'll get into the demo. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We're so excited to have you guys here. And this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I love analytics. As a company, we love analytics. And I'm on the Bucket team. I work on marketing and also work with the funnel build team. So some of you guys may have talked to me already. And then I'm joined by some wonderful co-hosts that are helping on the chat. So they will be talking to you guys in that. Make sure you use the chat function. It's just easier for us to see it all in there. So let me start sharing my screen. I'm going to actually switch to some slides. So 1 second here. Alrighty, so let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just what is Google Analytics. Some of you may be familiar with that already. And some of you may be wondering, hey, why would I want to add Google Analytics to my website? Maybe you're creating a new website, you're just kind of wondering about that. So the easiest way, and it's very convenient, that it covers really the ABCs, those are the things that that Google Analytics really is strong in. So I'm going to stop my video just so that you guys can see the slides only. So so ABCs are acquisition. So where did people come from? So the best way to think about that is, for example, where did they come from? If they came from Facebook, if they came from email, if they came from what kind of source did they come from? And so that's like the kind of core function of the first part of Google Analytics. So that's the where, so that's acquisition. Then the next kind of big phase of Google Analytics is the behavior. So that's the B, behavior. What did they do on your site? So let's say someone clicks on your homepage and then afterwards they go to some other page on your site. You kind of see the path that they take as they go down that. And so you can see what pages are having the most traffic. You can also see what kind of activities happening on each of those pages. And so that's the behavior, the what they're doing on your website. And then finally, conversion is the C. So how they converted to an opt-in or other action. So this one's very important. It's something that that you can see if they actually took an action. So ultimately, what's most important, obviously, is being able to get people to not just come to your site, but to actually convert to some kind of action that you're wanting them to take. So that's that third kind of aspect of Google Analytics. So it's very simple: acquisition, behavior, conversion, really deeply in each of those. So I'll show you a little bit, just like a little dashboard so you can kind of see what it looks like in an account, in a demo account. And then, like I said, this webinar, we're mostly going to focus on the demo. Janice is going to take us through just how to do it in bucket.io if you already have Google Analytics on your site. But if you want to know just a very high level of how to start using it, it's pretty simple. So basically, step one, you sign up for an account. We're going to wait to share the link of how you sign up for a Google Analytics account until the end of the webinar, just so that we can focus on the demos, and then at the end I'll share with you how you can sign up for an account if you don't have one. And then you install it on your website. So when you do that, there's basically a small little, it's called a script or a snippet. And that script or that snippet is something that Google Analytics gives you to add to your website. It's something that you may have to have a web developer do, but it's pretty simple. People are used to it. You usually can have someone on Fiverr do it, or you can have just someone that that does web design do it. if you're not too comfortable with the technical side. But if you don't already have it installed, that's something that we're not really going to cover just because it's specific to, kind of your situation. But you can Google or search on YouTube for installing Google Analytics. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, you can either try it yourself or you can see if you hire someone to do that step if you need help with it. So I'm going to quickly, so as the next step, just so that you guys can see, I think also this is really cool to kind of see the behind the scenes of a demo Google Analytics account, just so you kind of see like why you would want to be using Google Analytics and what it looks like when there's data in there. Either, if you even have it maybe and you don't have a lot of data in there already, that's something that, this will kind of show you what that looks like. So what I'm using, this is really cool because Google provides this as a demo account, and you can actually search on Google for this, like Google demo account, just so you can kind of see what it looks like. This is data from the Google's web store. Basically, they have like a store that they sell some Google merch, and this is some sample data that they import from that. So I'm actually looking at kind of a sample data that they show here on this demo account. So as you see, the really, like, there's a ton of stuff in here. Don't get too intimidated by that. If you are new to Google Analytics or haven't really dived into it, you don't have to get into every little thing. There's a ton of little things, and each one has a drop down within it, and then subcategories and things like that. But don't be too overwhelmed with that. I think that's, over time, I've used Google Analytics, and I'm actually certified in Google Analytics, and I haven't even, I've used it for about 10 years or more, and I haven't even gotten to every little nook and cranny of it because it's just really, really fully featured. So so just kind of explore the audience, and the overview is really like the main thing you need to look at. As you see here, it has some really high level stuff. So, it talks about the users total. So this is, the aggregate number of users you have. And the very important thing is this is the time frame. So this is from September 11th through September 17th. But you can change, this to different time frames. You can have these date ranges that are kind of preset, like yesterday, last week, last month, last 7 days, last 30 days. So this, in essence, is really like the core of Google Analytics, where you see these high-level metrics, and you see the number of users, new users. Sessions is basically a user can come back more than once. So, for example, you see that users are 10,852, but then the sessions is higher because, some of these people may have come back more than once in that time. So they may have had a secondary visit, for example. So that's why you're seeing this 1.22 sessions per user. Page views, bounce rate is basically people who leave immediately when they get to a page. So there's all kinds of, subcategories here: language, country, city, browser, all that. But really the overview is where you see most of the important kind of data that you want to look at. And like I mentioned, as you see, there's all kinds of other things, like we were talking about the ABCs, right? So this is, acquisition, behavior, and conversions. And then each one of those has a subcategory. So the best thing to do is to go into the overview of each of those, just to see high level, and that's really where I spend a lot of my time, is the overviews, because, you see kind of the health of your traffic and where people are coming from. And so as you see here, it kind of breaks down that, and this is Google's example. So sample data from Google, they get a lot of people in from organic search, 23% from direct traffic, so people typing it directly, and so on and so forth. So this breaks down kind of the traffic by channel, and so that's what I meant when it's kind of saying where they're coming from. So these people are coming through, and you can see a further breakdown by each channel. So let's say we want to see affiliates. We say, okay, affiliates, we have 441 users in that time frame that we have set as the time frame to look at. And the bounce rate for the affiliate traffic was 64.69%. We didn't have any conversion on this e-commerce because this is actually a store, so that's what they're measuring. So, you kind of see down to the detail level. if you want to go into, even more detail, you can go into each of these. You can go into connecting your Google Ads. And then the behavior, the overview on that one is basically what they did on the site. So like I was saying, you're seeing which pages they went to. So in this case, we're seeing that the #1 page is the home page, and that's having, about 11% of the page views. But as you see, there's like a breakdown of a decent amount of traffic. The rest of the traffic is split. And if you view the full report, it keeps on going. You have other pages that they're seeing, and coming to as the place that they're visiting. So this is really good to kind of see which pages people are going to the most. And then you can see the performance on each of those. So again, you could click into each of these to see different pages. So if you want to see specific pages, you go here, and then you see, kind of all the metrics on that. And then we go to conversions. So conversions is that last one, that's C. So conversions are a little bit more complex just because, like I mentioned, I've been doing Google Analytics for quite a while, and sometimes I set up conversions, but it's something you really have to kind of plan to build out. And so you can set up like a specific event that you're tracking, or you can say that you want to do, see where people are converting in your opt-in. You can see in e-commerce, for example. This one's an e-commerce setup, which is actually a little more complex, but you can see what products they're buying for the e-commerce conversion tracking, and the average order value, things like that. So Google Analytics is really, really very kind of deep in the amount of data that it gives you. But at a high level, conversions, usually these kind of things are not just built in. You have to set those up. So these are ones that you kind of have to add and create, as you're building out your analytics, on there. But so I'd say really focus on these three. The audience, the acquisition, the behavior. Real time is basically just showing you your traffic, at the current moment. So it shows you how many active users are on the site. And they do have really good tooltips here at the top. So if you're like, okay, I don't really know a lot about it, then just be sure to take a look at these and watch the videos and things like that. But that's pretty much it. I didn't, we aren't going to get too much into all the specifics, but like I said, if you don't have it installed yet, just stay at the high level and kind of check out the overviews of each of those sections once you get it installed. It takes about 24 hours or so once you install Google Analytics on your website before you start seeing data. But a good way to kind of test that is if you go in and you aren't seeing anything under overview here, under audience overview, and you're still seeing no data, and you've had traffic, and after you installed it, then you might have to troubleshoot, by searching some Google Analytics troubleshooting videos and things like that. We're not going to get into too much of the weeds, just because we'll talk to you next about adding this to your quiz funnel. So that's kind of the connection that we have to Google Analytics, is how to add it to the quiz funnels. And so Janice, I think, let me just see, are you ready to go? If we switch over to you to do the demo?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to stop my share, and then Janice is going to do a little demo on how this ties into Bucket for integrating in your funnels.
All right, thanks, Alexandra. Hello, everyone. My name is Janice from the Bucket Technical Support Team. And as Alexandra said, I'm just going to cover how to place the Google Analytic code in your funnels and how to kind of set it up to start recording data in the Google Analytics side. So the first thing is I am here in my account dashboard. So usually I go to funnels at the top menu bar and locate the funnel that I want to work with. I named this one G8 demo, so I won't get confused with the other funnels that I have. So once you click edit, which is the green button at the right-hand side, we want to go to settings. Under settings, we have this menu bar at the left-hand side, and we go to integrations, which is right at the bottom. If you have many other softwares integrated with, they will appear. But for now, we just want to look into the Google Analytics, which is right here in the second position. If I click there, it's automatically going to open this form, which is grayed out because it's not activated. So couple of things that I do want to mention before I get into this form is that first, you always want to make sure you activate it from the right-hand side toggle. And also, as opposed to what happens in the canvas, this settings page, it doesn't save automatically. It does in the canvas, but not in settings, because the system does not have a way to know when you are finished with all the changes. So we always want to make sure we click the Save Changes button here at the right hand side whenever you just think that you just completed the setup, or if you just want to make sure that everything is being changed, make sure you click the Save Changes button. Now, I did complete this before, so I could show you guys how to fill out the form. So I'm going to switch here to a copy of this funnel where I have placed the Google Analytics codes, which I'm going to show you how to get there. And I also set up a few of categories, events, and labels and values that I want to go over with. But before getting into that, I did want to also recommend this article from Google, which is about events. It basically gives you a very detailed information about this specific categories, actions, labels, and values. So for anybody that is new to Google Analytics, or if you need a refresher on how Google really uses all this events, this is an article to go for. And it has, like I said, examples and all that. So here, I'm gonna cover really quick how to get the code, this piece of code from Google Analytics. So once you have activated and set up your Google Analytics account, here at the bottom of the page, there's an admin with a gear icon. So you wanna click there, and it's gonna display these three menus. We wanna look into tracking and focus is what we wanna do, track the activity of users when they are in your funnel. So when you click tracking info, you have this deployed menu, but we really want to go into tracking code. And again, I'm just going to go over that again. Admin here, then tracking info, then tracking code. If I click tracking code, it's going to automatically show me this code from Google Analytics. We just need this piece right here, which starts with UA, and it also, you can find it here at the bottom. So I just copy and paste it here in Bucket. And this is what it's really going to link your Bucket account with Google Analytics. Now, you may want to set up events at the question level and outcome level, or just at the question level, or only in the outcome level. It really depends on what you're looking to track and what you want to see on Google Analytics. Now, how would somebody know what to put in category, action, label, and events? Again, that's provided in the article I showed earlier, but basically the names that you provide to category, actions, labels, and values are really up to you. You just have to keep in mind how you want to use each one so that can have like a cohesive organization when you're looking to the data in Google Analytics. So, but very briefly, categories are basically names that you supply as a way to group objects that you want to analyze. In this case, categories, I will create a category for with the funnel name, so that way I know that anything that happens with this funnel, I'm going to find it under the same category, which is this thing that I place here. I just use that abbreviation for Black Friday, just to kind of give an example. So Black Friday funnel, so that way when I go into analytics and I look for the category, I will definitely find everything under that category. And also, in case you forget this or whatever I'm saying during the presentation, there are tooltips right next to each one, so you can kind of remember what they're used for. And also, when it comes to categories, I use a different event for the outcomes. The reason I think that is because if I group everything under the same category, Black Friday funnel, perhaps everything that happens in the question and everything that happens on the buckets or outcomes are going to be under the same one, and you might get confused, or analytics may mix the data. So to avoid that, it's better to give a different category to each section, because perhaps you want to just look into what happened and how people interacted with the question. And then separately, you want to see those people that are actually opting, how did they interact with the funnel? So that's why the categories, I named it differently. This one is basically the funnel, and this one is for the buckets only. Now, the event action. Event action are going to be used to basically name events or interactions that you want to measure in the particular object, because you might have more than one question, like it could happen. You perhaps want to create actions based on the question. For instance, if I have 5 questions, then I have one for each question. So Q1 for question 1, Q2 for question 2, or anything that you consider best, you could use it for the action parameter. Also, just to kind of mention that action does not always mean that an actual action, because people might think like, okay, I'm going to just use click or answer or viewed or landed, but it doesn't necessarily has to be an actual action. Again, this is just the way they group the events, but you can definitely use it and name it as you see best. So I did name this one Q1 because I want to see the difference as of how many people answered and view question 1, how many people answer and view question 2, and so on. So that's why my action, it's basically the question number or the question position. Now, for the event action on the outcomes, I provided the outcome name because this is a Black Friday funnel. Then one of my buckets, it's named that they are ready to shop now on my website. So that's the action that I just used for this one. Now, labels. Let's go into event labels for both. Labels are basically provided as additional information that you want to analyze. For this one, I could use either that they viewed the question or that they landed in one of my outcomes or thank you pages. And finally, we have the event value, which is usually a numerical value that we give to the action. So perhaps I want to see how many people landed or answered that question, or how many people viewed one of my thank you pages or outcome pages. So that's why I give it a value of 1 and 1. So that way Google Analytics can show me that. But again, this is just an example. You can actually change this and customize it as you see best. And of course, don't forget to save changes here at the top right corner. And well, overall, that's the setup part of that. And well, I'm just gonna open for any questions. If any of you guys have any question on the chat that you want me to cover, please let me know.
So we had a good question from Catherine. She asked, do you mean the event categories, the BF funnel and BF bucket, is different because you might have more than one funnel you are running on the dates? So could you explain a little bit more of the difference between those two and why you're using 2 different event categories?
Yeah, so according to the definition and how Google Analytics use event category, they will basically create a string. So this value, labels, and actions are gonna be registered underneath this category. So this is like the father and these are the child. So it's not like you're gonna see it separate. So in case, and this was just an example, that in case you want to track or see activity or separate how people interacted with the question versus how they interacted with the outcomes, because remember that not everybody that answers 1 or 2 questions, it's gonna make it to the end. Some people may drop. So this was just an example of me using 2 different categories because I did want to make sure I could analyze the data separately. But yes, you could use the same. I could use Black Friday funnel on the categories for question, and I can use the exact same for the outcome. The only thing is that when you go inside analytics and you filter by this category, you're gonna have the actions, labels, and values for both because it associates or it just basically registers 1 action per click. So that's why I separate them so I could make sure that I could see them in a more granular way. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then, one of the questions we have from Michael, he's asking, can you add more than one flow event? So like you mentioned, other questions or things like that. And we also have another question, how do you add Q2, Q3? Can you show us in the event action? So basically, those are kind of related questions.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I happen, I think I can go into, let me just say changes. If I go to the canvas and I add another question and see here, this radio button question. Let me just close it, add it here.
So that you guys know, like Janice just had in this demo, we had only one question just to kind of make it easy for you guys to see, but he's adding another one here so that you can see what that looks like when there's another question. But yes, but like to answer your questions, Michael, you can't have more than one.
Thanks. Okay, so I just added, and as you can see, the second question just appeared here on these other samples. So as you can see, it also gives me an option to track event by question, by answer. So if I happen to say that this is question, so I'm gonna do question 2, and I'm just gonna use the exact same event, viewed 1, turn it on. So this is gonna tell me when they land and view the question. It doesn't necessarily mean that they click through the question, but it will let me know whether they answer no. But if I do want to track in a more granular way, I could keep using, same category because they are under the same category. And this is question 2, but perhaps I want to do question 2A. So that will tell me that they not only they view the question 2, but they answer but they choose the option A. Or question 2B to indicate that their choice was the B on that one. I usually would go for label as view because I'm not sure what other name we could give to the label. But again, if you have another way to name this labels, go for it. But in my example, to me, it makes sense labeling view. So it means that from the Black Friday funnel, they view question 2, answer or choose the option A or B, and they actually viewed the page. They landed on the page. And I'm just gonna like add a value, an event value, which is a 1 and 1, just to make sure that, or so I could see a count of how many times that was answered. So this is gonna be basically how you set that up if you have more than one flow or more than one question. And same applies for the outcomes.
And I think people are kind of getting a little mixed up on the, having more than one event and things like that. Genesis' example here is a really good one because you see how event category, they're all the same because, when I showed you, for example, you want to have kind of that aggregate in Google Analytics. You don't want to have a different event for each question, or you don't want to have a different event label for each question because what you really want to have different is like he's showing where the event actions are the only thing you're really changing and the others remain the same. So, that's that way you can see kind of in a high level, you can say, oh, this many people, because they had the event category of be a funnel, this many people actually like went through and, saw the questions, for example. But then you want to get down to the granular and you want to see like you just entered in like Q2A, Q2B, or Q1 and Q2. That's the event action, which is really like the kind of micro level of that high level event category. So as you see, event category stays the same because you want to just see like who is everyone under that, and then you see the level of detail under event action, for example. I think that might answer a couple of the questions that people are having in here. And then is event value used so you can sort or prioritize results? Jenna said you're using 1, but really they can say any amount on those, right? If they have like a question that's more important to them or things like that.
Exactly.
So yeah, so you can, we recommend keeping it the same value because really you want to see like, again, like a very binary level that this is kind of the aggregate data. And that way but like, let's say you have a question that's like your absolute most important, you potentially can give it a different event value that's higher. But if you just keep it at 1 for everything, then it's helpful. You know, just because that you're like using the same value for each one, so that way you can see just at an aggregate level what's happening on this behavior. Okay, so can the Google Analytics account be used for different websites? Yes, it can. So in this case, you can only, you know, on Bucket, you can have, Janice, can you have more than one Google Analytics account connected, or is it just one?
I think it's only one, because when you click this icon here at the left-hand side, it only enables one form. So I'm just going to step out real quick to the canvas, come back to settings, integrations, Google Analytics. You only have one per funnel. So for people that is probably running funnels for clients or anybody else, because the code is unique, what you could do is that each funnel would have their unique Google Analytic code, but inside the actual funnel, you can only have one integration with one code.
Yeah, so like Jenna said, in each funnel, you can only have one, but I think the question is, can Google Analytics itself be used for a different website? If that is the question, then yes, you can have Google Analytics. One Google Analytics account can be used for, I think, up to 10 different websites. And you see where his mouse has highlighted the UA, that Google tracking ID. That is the specific one for the website that he's working on. So you know, basically what we would do is do the similar process on another website if you had more than one on your Google Analytics account. And I don't think we have, do you have any data passed to this yet in your demo account, Janice? I don't think you can. If not, I can probably see if I can see kind of somewhat an example in that Google demo account.
I don't have this data passed onto analytics, because I usually don't run traffic through my funnels. But if you have one, I'm just going to stop sharing so you can show them any example that you might have.
All right, so I'll show you guys just a high level. We, like I mentioned, we're kind of, you know, we're pretty aware of Google Analytics, but we focus on the bucket side. So, you know, this will just be kind of high level where you see these things. This again is not, this is a Google Analytics demo account from their web store. So it's not going to have any bucket specific ones, but just so you guys can see kind of what happens here. So, for example, under behavior, there are events, and you remember how he was providing the category, action, and label. So for example, you know, when you get into each of those, you will see a breakdown of each of those actions that you named, or the labels or the categories. So at the high level here, for example, if I go into enhanced e-commerce, this is a event category. This is how they named it. And then, you know, you can see kind of the number of unique events and things like that. When you get into an event value, so you guys are asking if you provide event value, then, you know, that basically is what would show here. E-commerce and all that kind of stuff, you know, is definitely something that's a little more complex, because this is an e-commerce example and they have a lot more on that. So that's, you know, that's kind of a little more deep, but at the high level, like I said, when you go into events, which is under behavior, and then click on overview, that's where you're going to see these events be passed to that. And then John saying, would love to see how a bucket configuration looks in GA. It'll be similar to this. We'll see if we'll just send some data, that demo that Janice did, and we can just have some people on our team take that quiz so that you guys can see like what he just created, you know, what that looks like in his demo Google Analytics account. So that's kind of high level, just so that you guys see like where you end up seeing that data. Okay, so that was awesome, Janice. I think we have, you know, and this, like I said, this can get, you know, Google Analytics in general, and this whole thing can get as deep or as high level as you want. So don't overthink it. I think, you know, really just like keep it simple, like Jen has had, have it be something that's a little bit high level, I think, and just don't get too complex with it at first. You can always add in complexity later on. But even Google Analytics itself, you know, like I said, just start high level. start in kind of the main sections and the overview of each section if you haven't used it before. And then you can get into more of the deep stuff, because like you can create segments and there's so much stuff you can do, but that's like a whole nother, that's like a university degree, I think, because like I said, I think there's so much out there online for you to learn about Google Analytics. So I think go on YouTube, go on Google, and just start to learn more about it if you're interested. But from our end, that's really how you get into Bucket. So any final questions? I think we're going to wrap here in a minute. But that's really high level. I did tell you guys I was going to show you how to get to, so if you haven't signed up, we, like I said, we don't provide support on specifically how to install it, but you can really look that up. Like I mentioned, you just Google or search YouTube for installing Google Analytics, or you can talk to someone who's a developer, someone on Fiverr to do that part for you. But step one is to sign up for an account. Thanks, Linda. Thanks everyone. Your questions have been great too. And so this is the link for you to sign up for a Google Analytics account. You basically go there, you can sign up for an account at google.com/analytics, and it's going to take you through the process of creating an account. It just basically asks you about your website. It may have to verify your website. So again, you may have to have someone somewhat technical involved to install something to verify it, but it's at least create the account, because that's something you can do without someone technical. And then after you create the account, that you can find out how to install it through some of those tutorials. And then after you get it set up, then you can set it up in Bucket, like Jenna showed, to integrate it into your funnel and then create those events. And so I think that's pretty much the questions we have. If so Juan was answering, I think everyone's gotten their question answered. Awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Hopefully this was a good overall overview. We love data, and I hope you guys have some fun installing this, and we'll be here to help on the Bucket side if there's any questions on integrating into your quiz funnels.